Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
And my name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question. Jeff.
Yeah?
How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. Pretty good. Just ate a bunch of candy.
Oh, right.
Before we started recording this.
Right. We did a bonus episode about eating junk food. So yes. Gabe ate some junk food.
I bought way more junk food than I actually ended up eating, though. So I'll have some snacks over the week.
Yep.
Yeah. So not really too much is going on. I know last week I talked about how we paid off our house. I'm still really excited about that.
Woo.
Yeah. Other than that, not much. Just been living and living some more.
Yep. We just kind of keep. I mean, it's the era of just keep going, just keep moving.
I'm making step after step towards the inexorable goal of death.
Sure.
Way to bring down the podcast, Jeff.
Woo! I've been doing all right. I've been playing a lot of video game Sea of Thieves. I was talking to you about it earlier. Mm-hmm. It consumed a lot of my time recently, and I'm not upset about it. It's just it's a very addicting game.
Sure.
Yeah. So having fun with that.
Cool. I haven't played very much of it, but I started playing Warframe last night, which our mutual friend Steve was getting me into. I feel like a long time ago I remember the guys on Crit Academy talking about it, and and that was like it's gotten a lot of updates since then. So there's a lot more to it now than there may have been a few months ago. All right. Well, you want to go ahead and jump into this episode?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Jeff, I want you to imagine that you're at the gym. Mm-hmm. You're going through an intense leg day workout.
Okay.
You don't want to forget leg day.
Right. No.
While you're there, you notice a very tall, scaly man on the bench press.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the corner of your eye, you see smoke in his direction. He's under the bar, struggling immensely, smoke billowing out of his rather long nose.
Uh-huh.
You run over to spot him, because you should always have a spotter.
Right.
And you help pull back the bar onto the rack. As a gesture of gratitude, he decides to let you take a single item from his workout bag. And on the bag is embroidered. Do you know what it says, Jeff?
What does it say on it?
It says, "The Dragon's Hoard."
The Dragon's Hoard is a smelly gym bag?
Apparently, and today's item goes along with that. So that was submitted by Alistar the Minotaur. He apparently actually emailed that to us a long time ago, and I think it got lost in our email, so he reposted it on Reddit. But yeah, so he submitted that intro as well as the item. And the item is the Do You Even Lift Bro tank top.
Okay.
This magical shirt, which requires attunement, is a white sweat-stained tank top. On the front of the shirt is a decal of a muscle-bound man with the script, "Do you even lift, bro?" While wearing this item, the wearer, regardless of armor worn, appears to only be wearing the tank top and a pair of athletic shorts. The armor bonus still applies, and any drawbacks of the armor, like disadvantage on stealth checks, still apply as well.
Mm-hmm.
The shirt grants the wearer an 18 in strength.
Ooh.
And grants proficiency in athletics or double proficiency if the character already has it.
Nice.
In addition, this item also grants the wearer the powerful build racial trait.
Cool.
So yeah, that's all it is. You know, that's all the mechanics. It's it's strictly beneficial. It's not one of those many items we have that are cursed in whether explicitly or implicitly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it makes you stronger, and you can lift, bro.
Yeah,
you can
absolutely.
even lift. You
can even lift, bro.
So yeah, of course, this is referencing the meme, I suppose, of the "Do you even lift, bro?"
Right.
Now I have to find something to put in the show notes to explain that. So good luck, future Gabe. So yeah,
it's funny. It's powerful. I mean, like, you know, giving an 18 strength, double proficiency to athletics, and powerful build, which doubles the amount of carry weight you have.
Sure.
Not as powerful as Powerful Build from 3rd edition.
Oh, yeah. You got...
Yeah, you count it as large for all of its benefits, but none of its drawbacks.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
really
good.
Powerful.
Yeah, if I recall, the only races that had that, every one of them had a level adjustment, I think, right?
Yeah, because Goliath, I think, was the one that started with, the first one that had it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they were a +1 level adjustment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I always loved having characters with Powerful Build because I just love the idea of like having an oversized like weapon because you wield a large size weapon as a medium creature.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, so there isn't really very much else to this mechanically. I mean, it's based on a joke, which it's a pretty good joke, I suppose. I guess I can also say that the fact that it makes you look like you're wearing just a tank top and a pair of athletic shorts can be useful,
which is literally what I'm wearing right now. Like that's my lounging around the house. Like I don't do athletics, don't get me wrong, but like I have a pair of like basketball shorts that I wear, and I just wear my like tank top undershirt. You know,
sure.
Like that's what I just lay around the house in.
Yeah, I don't know. I am wearing shorts and a t-shirt, not quite the same thing, but. Yeah, so I mean, it's neat that it does let you disguise the fact that you're wearing armor. That could be useful in lots of situations.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if maybe it would be better if it didn't give you, or maybe let's say there's a cursed version of this where it has all the same benefits except it doesn't give you an 18 in strength. It actually like lowers your strength or something, but you still look like you're super buff.
There's one that skips leg day and lowers your speed.
There you go.
So yeah, it makes your dexterity lower or something. Maybe I don't know.
Sure. I don't know. There's something that can be gotten from that. Possibly. Also, I'm wondering if there could be shirts that have other meme related things on them.
Yeah, a meme themed set. Of
I do feel like I am opening a can of worms by even suggesting that. But
yes, you are. But yeah,
I guess we have no guarantee that we'll use them. But go ahead and send them in. Whoever may want to. Yeah, not really much else to talk about with this. You know, it's a useful item. I would definitely want it for most characters that I play. Bonus of strength is good. Powerful build is good. Proficiency or double proficiency in athletics is good too. Once again, that was the Do You Even Lift Bro tank top submitted by Alistar the Minotaur. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thanks.
Alistar did say, I should probably mention this. He did say, as part of the message, a little preface. I had a new player who wanted to join my table and wanted to play a tanky fighter. He had created his character who had a very good con and good intelligence. However, he had a 13 strength and a 14 dex. Because he was rather ineffectual in combat, he grew frustrated with his character, so I decided to give him a little bump and got to have some fun with the flavor of it. So yeah, I definitely think that works. That fits pretty good.
Yeah, you can definitely make a character very tanky by giving him a tank top.
Good job. So again, that was the Do You Even Lift Bro tank top submitted by Alistar the Minotaur. Thank you very much, Alistar. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to submit items to the Dragon's Horde, meme-based or not meme-based, if they wanted to submit questions for us to discuss or stories for the funeral pyre, how would they get those to us?
They can send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
That's correct. And before we go any further, we have a giveaway to give away today. As usual, we're giving away a copy of Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 1, courtesy of Crit Academy. It is a great supplement that I helped them write that contains a collection of 25 character concepts, 25 encounter concepts, monster variants, magic items, player tips, and DM tips. Tons and tons of content that I'm sure anybody could get something good out of if they were to read this, whether they're a player, a DM, even just somebody that doesn't play D&D but just enjoys reading about D&D. There's lots of stuff to be gotten from that. So, Jeff, who is our winner of this great supplement today?
Our winner today is Gold Panda.
Winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yes, congratulations, Gold Panda. You should be getting that in your email pretty soon. If you haven't gotten it in about a week, let us know. And once you do get it, be sure to leave Crit Academy a review. You know, they're a great group of guys making some great products. So the more reviews they can get, even if they're bad, but hopefully they're not, even if they are bad reviews, but whatever the case, that more reviews means they get more attention, more people will see their products, more people will hopefully have additional feedback, and all feedback will help them to make better products in the future. So so check that out. Let us know if you haven't gotten that. Be sure to check your spam folder. So thank you very much to Crit Academy for facilitating this. Good job to Gold Panda. Jeff, if anybody wanted to be like Gold Panda and they wanted to win a free copy of this supplement, how would they do so?
They could email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with unearthed tips and tricks in the subject line.
That's correct. And then you can put whatever you want in the body. It's up to you. Have at it, I guess. And then next up, I have an announcement, Jeff. We have a new patron today.
Oh, cool.
So we want to say a big, huge thank you to Bong Whiskey. Bong Whiskey, you are the greatest. So for anybody who's not familiar with Patreon, Patreon is an online platform where you can pledge to donate a certain amount of money per month to the creator of your choice. We have a Patreon at patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. We've got a few different reward tiers. So even if you just donate $1 per month, you still get some outtakes. You still get access to the fantasy fiction that I've written. We've also got a $5 tier where you get access to our monthly bonus podcast. Jeff and I just recorded this month's episode of that. So it's probably out for a few days by now, by the time this episode goes out. And for the $10 tier, we have a monthly Roll20 game that we just did about a week ago. So I'm really... I think we've got some really cool stuff on there. So if you want to be like Bong Whiskey here and you would like to support the show and get some cool stuff in return, you can go to patreon.com/interpartyconflict, check out the rewards and see if anything appeals to you. And thank you very much to everybody who has donated. Again, a huge thank you to Bong Whiskey. Thank you to everybody else who has donated. We know that this is, there's some tough times we're going through. Your money probably is a bit more valuable than it has been in the past. So we really appreciate that you guys have been willing to contribute to us to help us keep the lights on.
Yeah.
And then one more thing, to check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Crit Academy is a podcast where Justin, Ian, and Brandon create new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. Also check out Brute Force and Ignorance. They are an actual play podcast on our network. And also check out D&D Character Lab. They are no longer making episodes, but Garen and Dan made characters every week and pitted them against each other to debate whose characters were better. Enough with all that. Let's get into some questions, Jeff.
Our first question comes from Arnact Fen on Reddit, and they ask, "How do you like to roll, advantage or disadvantage?"
Yeah, so you've got two d20s, or you've got advantage or disadvantage. You either are going to roll two d20s and take the higher of the two, or roll them and take the lower of the two. Do you say roll two of them at the same time? Do you roll one and then roll the other? Do you roll one and then roll that same one again? What do you do?
I'm pretty sure I just roll them both at the same time.
Yeah.
Because like if you roll it one at a time, the idea is like you roll it to see if you succeed, and if you don't succeed, you roll again with advantage at least.
Sure.
Like, you know, I feel like the people who do it one at a time, that's why they're doing it. So like you roll and it's like, okay, that's not enough, but I'm rolling with advantage, so I get to roll again, you know. But I mean, like one that's taking up time.
Yes.
Time during a battle is, you know, everyone knows that battles take forever. So you're taking up time, and it's like but you have to roll the second roll anyway. Like, because whether or not the first roll is successful, if the second roll is a 20,
that's
you
a crit.
Yeah. You know, so you want to know what that second roll is no matter what. So why hold it back?
Sure. I very much am all for speeding up combat whenever possible. And it's not even dealing with advantage or disadvantage. It's always frustrating to me when like you're at the table and then, okay, it's my turn. I'm going to roll to attack. Oops, sorry. Okay. Let's see. I can add the number together. Okay. Yeah, that's a 15. Is that hit? That's a hit. Okay. I'm going to roll damage. Okay. So 4 plus 3. So 7 damage. Is that still alive? Okay. I'm going to roll my second attack. Hang on. Okay. Is that a 6 or a 9? Okay. So this
is a really good illustration.
That's a 12 Does that hit? No, that's a miss. Okay, well. Oh, I had an advantage on that one. Hang on a second. Let me roll again. Oh, yeah, natural 20, whatever. So I'm all for if you have two d20s, which you may not. Some people only have the one set of dice, and that's perfectly fine. But you should be trying to speed things up. If you have two d20s, roll them both at the same time. Yeah, like you were saying, Jeff. There isn't any reason you will only need to roll one. Maybe, let's say your first roll is a natural 20. You don't need to roll the second one, but you have spent the same amount of time as if you just rolled them both at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely prefer to roll them at the same time. Mm-hmm. I personally, I like to, because I also like to roll the damage at the same time, too. My illustration was not just for advantages and disadvantage. It's for anything.
I do usually roll damage separately, but it's probably not a bad idea to throw that damage die in there too.
Like, I can understand wanting to, build up the suspense of it. Like, guys, the bad guy has disadvantage on his attack roll. What's going to happen? And then you roll, and then, this one, he got a 19. That could be a hit, but he has disadvantage. I'm going to roll the second time. What's going to happen? And then you roll it. Oh, we got a 1. And, you can do that, but I don't know.
Yeah. To emphasize, if you're going to try to, be like dramatic or something like that, like every once in a while, sure. Yeah. Like go for it. Like if it's a big moment and you're like, oh my God, I have advantage. I have that inspiration. Or like if you don't remember, because I don't know if the rules say you have to declare you're using your inspiration before you roll.
That's a good question. I think you do, but I could be wrong.
But I'm pretty sure in most cases where it's like you can roll again or whatever, you can say, oh, I'm going to use my, like the lucky feat, I think. You can re-roll the D20.
Sure.
And it says you can do that after you've rolled the first time, but before the DM has told you whether or not it fails or succeeds or whatever.
Sure.
So as long as you're quick about it or whatever, you're like, oh, wait. Like, oh, can I use my inspiration to roll with advantage instead? I can't see many DMs going, no, you have to declare it before the die hit the table. You can't,
right.
As long as they didn't say no, that didn't hit because you rolled lower than their, even though everybody metagames and tries to keep track of what the AC of the monster is or whatever.
Yeah.
Or the DC of this saving throw. But, knowing whether or not that 12 hit or missed is a good chunk of information to know. Like, it's like knowing that a 12 is going to miss. That's, 12 is not a bad roll. It's slightly above average.
Sure. So, you might use the advantage on that, or you might use the inspiration on that. You might not.
Right. Exactly. So, I feel like if in a dramatic moment where you're like, oh crap, okay, yes, I'm going to use my advantage. I'm going to use my inspiration this time. And then you roll it, you roll the D20 a second time. Like that's all fun.
Sure.
But yeah, like the wasting time by rolling one die at a time. And sometimes people just, I don't know, newer players, especially people who are newer to 5th edition who who haven't really used advantage and disadvantage that much. Like it might be like, oh right, sorry, roll again.
Yeah, I don't mean to say, I'm not sitting at the table telling people like you should have rolled both of them. No, I mean do whatever you want. I'm just saying like that's why I like to do both at the same time, because it can be a little bit annoying when someone does take a long time with their rolls. So I try to speed up mine so I'm not that kind of person.
Sure. Yeah. This is definitely more of like a what's your preference kind of question. So
yeah, and I did look up the inspiration, and it's not really clear. It just says when you make an attack roll or skill check or whatever. So I'm pretty sure you're supposed to declare it before you make the roll. But again, I think most DMs would probably be lenient enough to let you do it. Depending on the game.
Yeah, like in a lot of cases where like you have advantage, like the game states if you are in this situation you have advantage, like the DM can't take that away from you.
Sure.
Like just because you forgot that you had advantage, and like obviously if like it goes two turns into the combat and you then realize, oh wait, I had advantage back then, there's not much you can do about it then.
Sure.
But I feel like, like during that roll, if you go, oh right, I had advantage, I forgot. Like I don't think it's right for the DM to deny you the advantage roll just because you rolled one dice instead of two,
Sure.
Our next question comes from Jerkino.
Don't be a jerkino, Jeff.
I'm sorry. This was on Reddit, and they ask, do you think virtual tabletops like Roll20 encourage railroading?
Yeah, and so what they meant by this was because, if you go to, let's say you join a group in Roll20 or whatever, if the DM has, done their due diligence and done a good amount of prep and everything, they will likely have maps that they bring out and tokens and, all sorts of stuff that they've like integrated into the game to make it easier for the players. Mm-hmm. And the idea then being that they've put a lot of work into setting up all of this stuff. So will they be more likely to push players in the direction of using those things? If they go and they use all this time to make a map and then set it up and then bring it out and everything, will it encourage them to make players go to that dungeon, even if the players might not have wanted to otherwise?
Yeah, because we've talked about in the past about not over preparing as a DM just because of that exact reason, where like if you prepare too much, like but then the players go and do something else, then you've wasted all that time.
Sure.
And again, in talking about that, we said, well, if you've made that mistake, you can still repurpose some of the things. Yeah. Like you can kind of take bits and pieces or reflavor a couple things to kind of still use what you've prepared, but put it in the context of whatever the players wanted to do.
Yeah.
So you could do something similar in this case, like if you're going to be preparing all this stuff, maybe make it at least vague enough to where you could repurpose some of it. Like, you have a forest encounter or something planned, but they ended up going into a cave instead. Like you could still set up the same, like, the encounter could still be using like similar monsters or something like that. You could, you can reflavor it, just use the cave backdrop instead of the forest one.
Oh, it's a cave forest.
Yeah. Or, it's an underground forest,
from Dexter's lab.
Oh, right, yes, the Dexter's lab.
You're in a cave. I mean, a forest.
Were we just in a forest? Oh, yeah, it's a
cave forest.
Yeah. The dragon pops out.
Yeah.
And he cut his head off, and he's full of candy. He's a piñata. Yeah, I feel like this is definitely this could be an issue with the virtual tabletops because you do like. It does sort of require you to do more planning ahead.
Yep.
Like it's, like especially the ones, like there's ones that where you are building maps and stuff. Like Roll20, at least the way that you use it, is mostly it's just an extra tool.
Yeah. It's an easy way to get everybody's, voice chat and such lined up.
Yeah. Text and like you can use the dice roller just so all the rolls are on the screen so everybody sees it and stuff like that. So,
I'm actually going to say no. Mm-hmm. I can understand the idea here that again, like if you do, because at setting up Roll20, setting up the adventure you're going to be running, bringing in pictures of NPCs and pictures of locations and maps and such, that can be a lot of work. And I as we've said, I do think that over preparing can lead to railroading. However, I don't think Roll20 encourages it any more than playing at a table. Maybe even less. I'll get to why I think it's less in just a minute. But I don't see how this is any worse than if you're at a game and the DM brings out all of his miniatures and well, I have a miniature of a dragon, 3 orcs, and some rats, so I know you didn't want to go to the dragon's lair, but I've got this dragon miniature, so the dragon finds you anyway. Or if you have a bunch of terrain, well, we weren't planning on staying in the tavern, but the DM brought the tavern, so I guess we're staying in the tavern today. And not to say that any of that is bad, if you have the stuff, you might as well use it. It is probably better to use the terrain and the miniatures that you brought than to not use them, I suppose. But I think that there is at least as much likelihood to railroad in a regular tabletop game as there is in a Roll20 game. In fact, I might even say that it is easier to get around that kind of stuff in Roll20, because if I'm at the table and, oh shoot, the players didn't go to talk to this NPC, they talked to this other NPC instead. If I need a quick picture of an NPC, I can just, while they're talking amongst themselves, tab over, Google some fantasy pictures, and then just drag one into the window or whatever. And then boom, I've got an NPC and they think that I had it the whole time.
Sure.
Similarly with dungeons, if I have, a resource online for battle maps that I can find, okay, shoot, they didn't go to the dungeon I need. Let me run over here and quickly find a battle map. Boom, battle map. I had it all along. Whereas if you're playing at a table, you don't necessarily, if you're using physical terrain, you're not going to be able to quickly whip up some new terrain at the table. Depending on what level of tech that you have at the table, you might not be able to easily get NPC portraits and such. So I almost feel like playing on a virtual tabletop makes it easier for the DM to go outside of what they had planned, because they don't have to, they have such easy access to all of the, additional content in the same medium, whereas they wouldn't have it if it was like a physical medium.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, not all DMs have to use all of that stuff in Roll20. In our Roll20 games, ostensibly, I try to plan stuff out and I try to have maps at the ready, but, it doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes I do draw stuff out in the Roll20 just on the tabletop, just like I would at an actual game. If I had a battle mat, I would just draw out a dungeon and such.
Right, yeah.
So I think that there is as much potential likelihood of it being no worse than a regular game, than a game at a table. So I don't know. I can understand this being a concern, especially because I'm sure a lot of people got into Roll20 that were not previously into virtual tabletops due to the quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
So I can understand someone being a little concerned that this might happen. However, I don't think it's a problem. I think that it is no more of a problem than it would have been if you were at a table.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. I get you.
And really, I would rather have people playing in railroaded games online than not playing at all.
That's true. Yeah, you're still getting together, playing a game, having fun.
Yeah. There might be more stuff to discuss about that, but I think that as far as to answer the question, I think it has a pretty simple answer, and that's, no more so than would if you're playing with a DM who's going to railroad you, the DM is going to railroad you whether you're in a virtual tabletop or a physical tabletop.
Mm. Now, I will say about there's newer tabletop virtual tabletop systems coming out.
Yep.
That are a lot more involved as far as creating the maps.
Sure.
One of them is Tailspire. I think I sent you a link to that not too far back.
That looks really good.
It looks really good, and it's 3D, and it's they're trying to make it pretty easy to throw stuff together, but it's still you can still put a lot of work into one zone, one little area.
Yeah.
So I can see it. Maybe because you can put so much time into one space,
mm-hmm.
that it might be harder for you to detach from it. So it's I made this dungeon. It took me 17 straight hours of throwing this thing together.
Yeah.
I spent so much time on this dungeon, and they're not even on the same continent anymore because they wanted to go search for this treasure over there or whatever.
Sure.
This treasure that I randomly rolled on a chart because they were talking to an NPC that I didn't even name,
Yeah.
So, I feel like there might be a little bit more. It might be harder not to railroad in some situations, but I think you're right that a similar thing can happen in any way that you're playing the game. Again, I could spend the same amount of time building a physical terrain set that I have on my table.
Sure.
Like I have that option to do that right now. Like I could, go buy some foam and, and get some model paints and stuff and start going to town and making like a really cool, like physical dungeon map.
Sure.
And then the very same thing could happen. So,
yeah. So, well, actually, you did bring up a good point, I think. And so, yes, like I could say it'd be the same thing as if the person physically built a dungeon and was like, well, I spent 17 hours building the dungeon. I actually, when you said that though, it did make me think I would say this might encourage more railroading among new DMs. And okay. I say that because a new DM probably isn't going to be building a dungeon, like physically building a dungeon. If they do, they will probably realize very quickly on that there's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah.
And they might set it aside. Whereas if they're using something like Roll20 or something like Tailspire, where they think that it's going to be really quick and easy, but then before they know it, 17 hours have passed and they're still not done, then there might be more cases of newer DMs having this issue because they didn't realize what they were getting themselves into when they started building it.
Right.
Eventually, I think it would probably level out because they would be like, I'm not doing that again. I'm not building a 17-hour dungeon only for the party to not spend any time there. So they will either scale it back a little bit or make it more clear that, hey guys, you guys are going to stay in this place. Let's explore this space more. I don't know. So I think that there might be, I've actually come around, there might be more potential, but not intentionally. It might just be, I didn't realize how much work this was going to be, and now I have to finish this because I've put 17 hours into it, but then I'm going to have to railroad the party into going through it. I don't know. I do think eventually, though, it would kind of level out, but who knows? Maybe.
And in things like Tailspire, like the idea is that it's supposed to be making it easier and easier to like put these things together. So like, I feel like if you get good enough at it and you can quickly throw something together, like, you could do it over a weekend or something like that.
Sure.
Where you're not it's not railroading if this previous session they said you left the session at them stepping into a dungeon.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, like it's the end of the session, but I at least wanted to get you guys into the door. Here's like the description of the dungeon and like leave it on a cliffhanger. And it's like, okay, so then everybody's hooked and excited for the dungeon. Then you can go and put the work in until between sessions, you can quickly whip up this cool thing in the virtual tabletop thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that way it's ready to go on the next session. Always still a chance that they'd be like, no, forget about that. Let's go do something else. Like,
oh shoot, I remembered there was this other thing I wanted to do. Let's not go in this dungeon.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's still always that chance, but that like the players were like, people have busy lives. They might have completely forgot that they even went to that dungeon at the end of the session.
Sure. I've had stuff like that happen before.
Yeah. It's like, wait a minute. Weren't we doing something? Oh, we were hunting wait, what were we doing?
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess to come back to the question, so I don't think that Roll20 or virtual tabletops inherently encourage railroading. I think that because they are a relatively new medium, it might happen more because people aren't realizing what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah.
I think that once they are more familiar, once people know what goes into building a dungeon and such, I think that at that point it will probably be less common. Mm-hmm. I think that once we as a collective society are more familiar with virtual tabletops, they will be so beneficial in every way. Because you don't have to physically build a thing. You also don't have to just scribble a dungeon. You can, find a something that has slightly more work required than scribbling a dungeon, but is almost as good as building a dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they are good. Maybe railroading will be an unfortunate side effect at the beginning, but I think eventually it'll even out.
All right. Our next question comes from Junkyard Santa on Reddit.
It's a good name.
Just giving out garbage to all the good little boys and girls. I don't know. They ask, I just played my first D&D game, and everyone in the group was smelly, slovenly, rude, and overweight. Is this common, or did I just have a rough first time?
Now, I want to preface this by saying I am smelly, slovenly, rude, and overweight, but no. I hope I am none of those things. I mean,
yeah.
I know I am slightly overweight, but I don't think I am any of those other things.
Right.
So I feel like with this one we can touch on answering the question and also touch on why that is a common stereotype.
Sure.
Possibly. As far as whether this is common, it may be more common than if you were doing some other activity, like, say, I don't know, playing football or something.
Sure.
But I think that it is. I think that's a stereotype. I don't think it's as common as everybody might assume that it is. I've played with lots of different people. I've played with people of all shapes and sizes, all temperaments, all ranges of odor or lack thereof. I guess some of the people I play D&D with are some of the friendliest people ever. Some of them have also been rude. I generally didn't play with those people for very long.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's not an uncommon sight to see at a game store,
sure,
or hobby shop or whatever, to have there be a sign that says, "Please be showered," and please have some sense of personal hygiene if you're gonna like spend a lot of time here. Like, our local shop had one of those signs, and at the bottom of the sign it says, "We shouldn't have to make this sign, but please, if you're gonna be spending time in the game room, make sure you're showered at the very least."
Sure.
And it's like, there is that stereotype, and like there's not nothing to it. Like there's people who tend to play these kind of games are usually people who are like more on the, like, I guess antisocial is the word. I don't know, like,
yeah, definitely socially awkward is a common trait.
Yeah, like I get socially awkward, and so there are plenty of days where, like, when I'm hanging around the house, I'm pretty smelly, and like like it's a laundry day, and it's like I didn't feel like showering today because I'm not going anywhere, and I was just like, whatever, like like I understand having a lazy day, or you're just around with some friends who are just like nobody really cares. It's like, yeah, well, like whatever, we're coming over to your house to play games. Like I don't, like, it's your house. I don't care what you smell like. Like,
sure.
Yeah, I don't like. So I don't know.
So I have an idea of like how this stereotype started and possibly why it is still pervasive.
Sure.
So back when D&D started, or when tabletop role playing games, when tabletop war games, when these types of games were starting out, back in like the 70s and such, they weren't common, and they were not the typical group activity. There were lots of group activities back then, I'm sure, but among the recreational activities that you would play with a group of your friends would maybe be something more physical, maybe playing a sport or going out and, doing something out in the world. So when there are games where you're playing it, inside someone's house, and they are not physical, not very confrontational, it attracted a lot of people that were not good at those things. They, like someone that can't play football, can't go out fishing. It would be an easy change for them to then start playing this game that doesn't require you to be throwing things around physically or going out to a physical place. They were very open to people who were, possibly less athletic or had not as good of social skills. And as a result, I think that those groups kind of, in addition to being looked down upon by people who did take part in the more standard recreational activities, I feel like people who play D&D kind of got the reputation of being, if you play that game, you must not have good social skills, because people without good social skills can play that game. If you play D&D, you must not be athletic, because people who aren't athletic can play D&D. And for a long time, I'm sure that was a very common stereotype because that's what a lot of people that played it were. That's really the only reputation that it got because it wasn't mainstream yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like nowadays, even though we're moving away from that, it is still pretty pervasive, but in a positive way and a negative way. Like, people do still think of D&D as, oh, the game that you play in your parents' basement and you're smelly or whatever. But also people who are smelly and who are not very athletic still see it as a welcome place to go, a welcome thing to do.
Right. Yeah.
That's not a bad thing. I mean, the smelliness thing, like, everybody could do with a wash. Even people who are not smelly could still bathe. I'm sure everybody could bathe a little bit better.
Right. Yeah.
But I think that the type of people that you're going to play with are probably, in most cases, are probably going to be friends that you already know.
Mm-hmm.
So whether if your friends are slovenly and rude, the people you play with will most likely be slovenly and rude. So I don't think that you can't really say it's common, because, I mean, I like to think my friends are not slovenly and rude. Mm. I have played with a few people that are slovenly and rude, but for the most part, I don't think that, for me at least, that's not common. I don't think that it's fair to say it'll be common for everybody. But right. I do think that D&D attracts a type of person that can include people that are overweight, that are slovenly, that are smelly. They, of course, should work on that, but I think that it's just these are people that are not used to interacting with people in any social sense, and so they may not be as aware as someone who has played sports, who has done a lot of social activities.
Right.
It's not something that you should excuse. However, I think that how it got that way is a bit understandable.
Sure. Yeah.
Everybody should be working on improving, but
mm-hmm.
I think that it makes sense that it has evolved the way that it has.
Right. And not to shame anybody who's overweight or might have, like, some people have stronger body odors than others do, whether or not they shower, like it's just a thing that happened. Like, there's proteins in our sweat that make certain odors. Did you know that there's a protein in your sweat that is very similar to that found in cheese? And so, like,
not.
Yeah. So, like, if it is more, the protein is more pronounced when you exercise less, because when you exercise less, you're sweating less, and so, like, you're less likely to use those sweat glands, and so that if they're not regularly being used. And sorry, I don't want to get into any gross biology stuff.
Sure,
but I mean, like, it's not always their fault. Like, people, a lot of people are overweight. A lot of people have more stronger odors, and there's not much that they can do about it. But like, so again, not to shame those people.
Yeah. Like, we said a couple episodes ago when we were talking about people of various ages. I love how D&D is as inclusive as it is.
Yeah,
it could do with being more inclusive.
Right, and that is what you were saying, was like, because it's such an inclusive thing, like, because there are the types of people who don't have the option of doing, like, the normal social and physical, like, recreations.
Yeah.
Like, this is something that they are like, okay, well, at least I can do this, like, I'm okay with, like, I'm comfortable enough doing this. So you for a while would find more people who are less likely to be those who, like, dress super snappy and wear cologne all the time because they're going out for social events. And,
sure.
And, like, they don't, they're overweight because they're not, running the football around the field or whatever. Like, it's understandable.
Yeah. But I think in general, the average D&D player, if such a thing could exist, has over the years has become, less slovenly, less smelly, less rude, just because more people are playing it. So you're getting a bigger sample size than you might have 20 years ago.
Right.
So yeah, like, I think that, again, not to shame anybody. If you want to play D&D, you should be able to play D&D, and, that's awesome. However, when being as inclusive as it may be, you are going to get people on, on the higher end of the bell curve, lower end of the bell curve, and so on.
Right.
I've played with people that are super athletic and like I would not have expected that because of the stereotype. I've also played with people that are not, and so I don't think it is common. I think that like basically all stereotypes, you're gonna notice the people that fit the stereotype possibly more often than you do the people that are just middle of the road, don't fit it or don't go against it. So It may seem like a lot of people are smelly, slovenly, rude, and overweight. I think that you probably just got a rough first time. If you play with a different group, it'll probably be a completely different experience.
Sure, yeah.
All right, I think that'll do it for our regular questions for today, but we do still have our social media questions. Our last social media question was, what is your favorite multi-class combo, or just one that you've played that you really like? Do you recall what your answer was?
Anything with 2 levels of Warlock? I don't remember.
Pretty much.
I don't know if I brought it up, but I really liked the hybrid class options in Pathfinder.
Okay.
I thought those were really neat, and because there is a barbarian sorcerer hybrid class called the Blood Rager, which is the most metal sounding class imaginable. It's so cool, and like it ended up being like a really cool class. Like when I was looking into it, I was like, this is actually really neat.
Sure. Okay. And I think I said that there was a character that I played that was a multi-class barbarian warlock in 3.5 that I really liked. In general, though, I don't really multi-class very much, so
sure,
didn't have a ton to add. Over on Facebook, Nathan H says, I love making a warlord-esque build by doing fighter battlemaster, bard valor college, and a couple levels in the cleric war domain if I have the levels to spare.
Nice.
And that's pretty good because that's very reminiscent of in 4th edition, the warlord class was all about positioning people in combat, giving bonuses and such. Really, really cool.
Yeah, that's actually a really neat build. I'll have to look into that. That sounds cool.
Michael T says, playing a rogue barbarian and really having fun with it. So there you go. Yeah. Rogue barbarian is a pretty good combo too. Mm-hmm. Brandon B says, rocking wizard rogue right now. Rogue to find traps, pick locks, wizard to deactivate magic.
Nice.
Yeah. One Plucky Token says, I know I have seen it in many forms ever since 3rd edition, sometimes as a prestige class. In 4th edition, they had Seeker as a class and some wizards and bards with bow specialization, but I really liked the idea or build of the Arcane Archer. Imbuing ranged weapons with spells just always seemed like a cool flavor to me.
Yeah, that's really fun.
So yeah, in 3rd edition, they've got the Arcane Archer. You could cast spells that would take effect wherever your arrow landed.
Right, yeah.
I'm not super familiar with the 5th edition version, but there is a 5th edition version of it.
There is a 5th edition version. It's not as flashy. Like there are just like a handful of like different like arrow types that you can do. Some of them get pretty cool. Some of them can be really neat, but like there's like it's just like a handful of like abilities that go off of your arrow, your ranged attacks.
Sure. And I think they were saying that the Seeker in 4th edition was close to the Arcane Archer, I think is what One Plucky Token was saying. Over on Reddit, L. Trowell says, I built a character for a one-shot that I would love to be able to try again in a longer adventure or campaign. It was a halfling school of divination wizard, divine soul sorcerer. I was able to take guidance and bless from the cleric spell list, so between those spells plus halfling luck, portent, and favored by the gods, I had a lot of ways to manipulate dice rolls to work out in my favor.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
Yep.
Alstar the Minotaur says, 1 level of fighter and then 19 levels of wizard. Nothing like casting fireball while protected by full plate. As much as people hate on 3.5 and Pathfinder for being too complex, spell failure chance due to armor made a lot of sense, both thematically and mechanically. Not sure if I agree with that last part personally, but
sure. Okay. I kind of like that now. It's just sort of like if you got the proficiency, wear it. You can wear it.
I just because like clerics aren't hindered by it. Why is it specific to arcane magic? Is there something that is so much more powerful about arcane magic that it should be hindered? I don't know. Another topic for another day, I guess.
Yeah.
Over on Twitter, we got a few. Yodalea Hihu says, playing a Vengeance Paladin Hexblade currently, and it's great fun. My DM is really facilitating my character's inner struggle. He wants to do good and help people as he used to, but is also becoming more bent on revenge for his family as he learns of the powers his patron can grant him. That's pretty good. That's some pretty good character building there.
Yeah.
Tim L says, Conquest Paladin Whisper Bard was a ton of fun to play as an evil manipulative character. Really good synergy, great mix of role-playing and combat.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Yeah. We're getting some good responses here. Philippe B says, my first character in AD&D got away with being a fighter mage thief, and I loved him. That could be because we didn't realize the experience penalties from multi-classing, though.
Yep, that sound. Yeah. I think that was my original response was the fighter mage thief in AD&D. But yes, I think yeah, many a player does overlook the penalties.
Sure. The Discord discussion went a little into the weeds because we asked the question of how old our listeners think we are.
Oh shoot, I don't know. I didn't read those responses. What was going on with that?
I mean, a bunch of people were guessing. I would say that for the most part, they were pretty close.
Okay.
Peace Joy Pancakes, who actually prompted the whole thing, guessed that we were between 33 and 35.
Okay.
Which is correct. We are.
Yeah.
So not giving any more specifics. I'm sure we've given them in other episodes, but yeah, pretty close. Anyway, but as far as the on topic responses on the Discord, Damien the DM says, I bet Waradin / Pallock is one of the top. So a warlock / paladin.
Yep.
Autumn Wind says, I'd rather have a well-balanced team than to try to do everything by myself by multiclassing, but I think an accomplished rogue with a slight dip into cleric would be very versatile. Proficient in many skills, expert in a few, and able to cast guidance on myself prior to any ability checks that aren't time sensitive. The rogue turned cleric has a lot of roleplay material too. Reformed / found God. His past catches up to him. There's a lot to work with. That reminds me of, you're familiar with the show Firefly, correct?
Yes. Yeah, actually.
That was a dumb question for me to ask. What? Yeah.
Skylar and I just watched a couple episodes yesterday.
There you go. I love the character of Shepherd Book.
Yes.
The show, for anybody who's not familiar with Firefly, it's pretty much a Western set in space.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the characters is a priest who, if the show had gone on for longer, it only had one season and a movie. And this particular character does not have a good ending in the movie. If the show had gone on for longer, they probably would have done a lot more with this character's backstory, but he's a priest. He's brought onto this ship. He's just getting passage on a ship and gets caught up kind of in all the shenanigans that main characters are getting into. But it comes out that he has a mysterious past, and they hint at the fact that he may or may not have been an assassin, in fact. Right. I think the canonical answer is that he wasn't. They explained what his backstory was in some comic book or something, and I'm actually not a fan of how it actually turned out, but they do imply that if he isn't an assassin, he knows how assassins work. And I really like the idea of someone who was a rogue, an assassin, a thief, whatever, and then their past catches up with them, or they reform or something and turn their life around and become a complete... I like that dynamic for a character.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Stiltskin Koopo 84 says, in 4th edition, I always felt that any primal character should have a shaman multiclass, just for the heals and the animal companion tank ability. Pair with druid and you're a wild-shaped panther that summons a spirit panther, and you can both heal each other half the time. Yeah, there you go. And Joe S says, I don't like multiclassing in general because so many people use it to power game and it makes little sense to their backstory. I did have a rogue ranger I really liked though, raised by a group that quietly raided towns at night but lived deep in the woods.
I mean, I'm not gonna argue that a lot of multiclassing is for power gaming.
Sure.
But
I'm sure most of it is.
Yeah. But I enjoy the challenge it brings to make those combinations make sense.
Yeah.
Backstory wise. Yes, it might not make a lot of sense that a warlock a paladin exist, but it absolutely could. Like we've made a few examples ourselves on the show, and whoever I forget who submitted that on this list here, but like that came up with a really good idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you're torn between doing good or striking vengeance, and your patron is kind of feeding the vengeance side. And
that was
that
was Yodelea Hihu on Twitter. So I think that I would be willing to bet the vast majority of multiclassing is done for gameplay reasons. They want this cool ability. However, I think that the only problems come from when that's the ending point, when that's the start and end point. Yeah. If you start with that and then you think of how can I make this cool? How can I make this work? Then there's no problem with it. If there is laziness in that part of the design, then yeah, sure, it's gonna come out lazy. But I think that doesn't mean that it can't be good. But we've said as much. Don't mean to harp on on anybody for that, but So I think that's everybody. There again, there was more discussion on the Discord, but it was all about how old we are. So
I was just expecting everybody to say that we were either really young or really old.
I guess. No, I think everybody got pretty close. The sad thing is just that we are really old, Jeff.
I mean, yes, but I mean, not really. No, but it feels like it.
Sure. We're older than we feel, I guess. We're older than we say we feel.
Right. Yes. Or no, wait. I'm younger than how old I feel, but older than how I act. I don't know.
Okay. All right. So our next social media question is another kind of like a role-playing based question. What's your character's favorite food? Because we just recorded an episode about, junk foods and such that we as players like. So does your character have a favorite food? And if so, what is it?
A lot of my characters are Warforged, so they don't eat.
Okay. So cheap answer. Gotcha.
Hey, it's not untrue.
No, I'm just messing with you.
Trying to think of my Age of Worms character was born from a wealthy family, so he probably had very very picky. He was probably a pretty picky eater, so sure. He probably had. I think there was some dinner thing or something in that campaign where you had us eating one of these eggs, or it's an egg where you have to crack it just right.
Yeah, you have to hold it up above your head and shine light through it so you can see where the yolk is or something. And then, yeah. I don't know where I got that from.
Yeah, some fancy egg thing. That was his favorite, I guess.
Okay. And in that same campaign, Steve's character loved gravy.
Right.
Because there was a magical fountain of gravy in the first adventure, and he took a bunch of it.
Based a lot of his character around it.
Yeah.
It was great.
I don't recall if any of the characters I've played for a while did have a favorite food that came up in game. I remember there being a campaign where there was a festival or something that we went through where they had spiced beef. And I remember my character really liking the spiced beef, but I don't recall which character that was. It might've been, I think it was my cleric Saythorn, I think is who it was.
You sure it wasn't Saris?
I am sure it wasn't Saris, because Saris was not my character. He was my character's sidekick.
Oh, okay.
Jeff. I know what I have my characters the right way around.
Saris, who is Saythorn's sidekick. Got it.
Yes. Chronic S block.
Chronic S block.
Yeah. So Steve called Saythorn's sidekick Saris S block. Anyway, so. Yeah, so I'm excited to see what if any of our listeners have favorite foods for their characters.
Yeah.
So that'll do it for our questions for today. So let's wind down a little bit. Let's relax. Let's take a deep breath. Let's remember those who have come before us, who have made the world a better place by their own sacrifice, as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. Today's funeral pyre was submitted by Dustin via Discord. And he says, the first time I ever DM'd was at an Adventurers League session where they had too many people and not enough DMs. I volunteered to run a table and they gave me a module to run. The story was the Zhentarim, which is a Forgotten Realms evil organization, evil magician organization. The story was the Zhentarim were hiring people to search the caves underneath their citadel to find out why their patrols were going missing. The first part of the adventure went smoothly. They found their way through the Underdark and discovered tales of a Drider capturing people. They followed the clues and found their way to its lair. Turns out it was not a Drider, but an Ulitharid, an elite mind flayer.
Ooh, yeah, those guys are nasty.
Yes. The first mind blast took the party to half health and paralyzed all but 2 of them. The barbarian flew into a rage, ran across the room, and began to hack at the foe with his 2 non-magical axes. The Ulitharid touched him, and the barbarian had to make an intelligence save or be paralyzed. He, of course, had made int his dump stat. And he, of course, failed the save. I felt a sense of dread wash over me. The Ulitharid had an ability to eat someone's brain. Turn 1, paralyze the victim. Turn 2, wrap mouth tentacles around head. Turn 3, bite head dealing 1d10 damage. If it deals more than the character has remaining health, the character immediately dies. No death saves, just death. I should also point out that in Adventurers League, you have to start at level 1 and level up your character. If they die, you either have to pay for a resurrection or start over. This means a level 5 character takes many sessions to make. I was about to erase months of work. I tried desperately to think of a way to get the barbarian out of his predicament. He got a chance to save on his turn, so I gave him inspiration. He failed all of his rolls.
Oh, no.
Eventually, the turn of the brain munch came, and there was nothing more I could do. I did not want to be the one to strike the death blow, so I handed the d10s to the player. The barbarian had 50 hit points left. He had a 50% chance. He rolled 52 damage.
Oh, gosh.
Chomp, slurp, dead.
Oh, no.
Luckily, the player was not angry. In quotes, it was one hell of a death.
I mean, yeah, that's a hell of a way to go.
Yeah. So, hey, good on him. I guess let's raise a glass in memory of this player who, knows it's just a game. There's always next time. Clink.
Yeah, Ulitharids are nasty. They're large size. They have two extra tentacles with reach.
Oh,
they have
dear.
all these extra spell-like abilities and stuff. They're nasty.
Yeah. Yeah. That's and that was a pretty intense story, if I could say so.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Horde, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Reddit. We're on our Interparty Discord. We're on Twitter @InPartyConflict. We've got weekly social media questions, so if you answer them, your answers might end up on the show. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you'd like to support the show monetarily, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. We have a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get some bonus content. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is a YouTube channel where you can watch us play video games.
There you go. Speaking of video games, check out my side project, the Arcade Memories Podcast. If you'd like to submit your own childhood memories of going to the arcade, record them or write them to me at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time,
Smell you later.